They stood on the same battlefields, fought for the same ideals. They believed in the same dream, but their names are not carved into marble. Their stories are missing from the textbooks, and their legacy was erased on purpose. While school children grow up memorizing the names of Jefferson, Washington, Adams, and Franklin, there were other founding fathers, black men, who helped birth this nation. Not metaphorically, literally, in its revolution, its politics, its economy, and its philosophy. But ask yourself this: why don't we know their names? Why were they deleted from the American memory? What does that erasure tell us about the country they helped build? Asterisk, let's go back not just to 1776, but to the very soul of the so-called American experiment. Asterisk, A. Revolution with two front lines. Asterisk, as the colonies prepared to fight Britain, black Americans found themselves in an impossible position. Enslaved, disenfranchised, dehumanized, asked to risk their lives for freedom? But freedom for whom? Still, over 5,000 black men enlisted to fight for the Continental Army. Some were promised emancipation. Others believed in the revolutionary ideals themselves. One of the first to fall in the Boston Massacre was Crispus Attucks, a man of African and Native American descent. He was the first martyr of the Revolution. Why doesn't every child in America know his name? In 1781. Another forgotten name helped turn the tide of the war. James Armistead Lafayette, an enslaved man turned double agent. He infiltrated British camps, fed false intelligence to General Cornwallis, and played a pivotal role in the Battle of Yorktown, the war's final blow. George Washington won that battle in part because of Armistead. Yet unlike Paul Revere, there's no statue of him according to the Library of Virginia. It took Armistead years of petitioning just to receive the freedom he'd earned. Why? Because his very success contradicted everything the founders said about black people, intellectual architects. The founding of America wasn't just fought on battlefields. It was debated in salons, published in pamphlets, and laid down in ink. And in that arena, black minds were shaping the nation's soul. Benjamin Banneker, a free black polymath astronomer, mathematician, and surveyor, helped design Washington, D.C. in 1791. He famously wrote to Thomas Jefferson, challenging him on slavery and racial inequality. He wrote, "I apprehend you will embrace every opportunity to eradicate that train of absurd and false ideas and opinions, which so generally prevails with respect to us." Asterisk, Jefferson responded, but not with action. Instead, Banneker's contributions were slowly stripped from the narrative. His almanac, his celestial charts, his letters, these were proof that black genius was real. And that terrified a nation built on white superiority. The church as a nation. Richard Allen, born into slavery, bought his freedom, and became one of the most influential religious and political leaders of his era. In 1794, he founded the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the first independent black denomination in America. But it was more than a church. It was a political movement, or a training ground, base of operations for organizing, resisting, envisioning a new society. The AIM Church functioned like a state within a state, providing schooling, legal aid, employment, and mutual protection, at a time when the U.S. government offered black citizens nothing. Allen preached, "If you love your children, if you love your country, if you love the God of love, clear your hands from slaves." Asterisk. His vision of a self-determined black America was radical and dangerous to a white elite desperate to control the national narrative. Asterisk. Erasure as strategy. The erasure of black founding fathers wasn't just neglect. It was strategy. After the Revolution, as white elites codified property rights, political power, and citizenship, they ensured that the contributions of black Americans would be sidelined, because remembering them would mean confronting contradictions. At the heart of the Republic, how can you claim all men are created equal? While erasing the men who demanded to be treated as such, curriculums were sanitized, textbooks rewritten, statues raised to Confederate generals while black patriots were buried under silence, according to historian Dr. Erica Armstrong Dunbar. The myth of a white-only founding helped justify the political and economic exclusion of black Americans for centuries. Builders of black sovereignty, meet Paul Cuffe, a wealthy black ship captain and businessman in the early 1800s. Cuffe wasn't just rich, he used his resources to fund schools, trade networks, and even transatlantic voyages connecting black Americans to Africa. He advocated for black resettlement, not as an escape from America, but as a challenge to its moral failures. In his journal, Cuffe wrote, "Let us be industrious and enterprising, show the world we are capable of being free." He was the very embodiment of self-reliance, citizenship, and global black unity. Yet his name is rarely uttered in discussions of the founding era, America's forgotten blueprint. The founding fathers were told to revere, believed in liberty for the few. But these black founders believed in liberty for all. Their vision was more expansive, more inclusive, and, ironically, more American than the Constitution itself. They were not side characters. They were not passive. They were co-authors of the American story. A scholar, Dr. Hazen Jeffries notes, erasing black figures from the founding era reinforces the lie that black people were just passive recipients of freedom rather than active agents who helped define it. Say their names. So what happens when we restore these men to their rightful place? We begin to understand that America was never a white project. It was always a contested, complicated, multiracial experiment, and its boldest believers were often the ones it refused to believe in. Prince Hall, James Armistead Lafayette, Benjamin Banneker, Richard Allen, Paul Cuffe, Absalom Jones, Lemuel Haynes. These were not footnotes. They were founders. Their silence in history was never about absence. It was about erasure, and the time to recover them is now.